switch.
Tell me when you're at speed. You okay, Bruce?
We're rolling.
Rolling. You were a very young man when you first walked next to Dr. King. You're still walking and there's still a way to go. Can you tell me where you're going?
Well, we fight now for equality and peace. We are free but unequal. The gaps between the have and have-nots have gotten greater. Too few have too much concentrated wealth, too many wars, and losing jobs to faulty trade policies, and too much poverty. So we're going toward fighting now for equality and peace. We were attacked on 9/11. We reacted by destroying Iraq, and that was the wrong target. But because we're above international law, we are unaccountable to international court. We are lawless because we don't have to obey international law. And we lost lives, money, and honor. We just overthrew a government in Libya. What's the basis for Libya versus Yemen versus Syria? We're not sure, it seems to me. But we do know it's costing money. As we lay off teachers, policemen, firemen, we are still expanding wars in Iraq, in Libya, and in Afghanistan. So we're still going for the agenda Dr. King laid out, fighting for peace in the world and justice and fairness at home.
In 1964, when Johnson finally signed the Civil Rights Act, what was the feeling inside the movement when that pen crossed that piece of paper?
It was a big deal because we knew for a long time that we deserved the right to use public facilities. I mean, to go to the Holiday Inn for the first time, to go to the downtown restaurant for the first time, to go to sit downstairs in the theater for the first time, to be able to go to the public park, or to go to the zoo. These were big victories at that time, but then it whetted our appetite for even more. Now we have the right to vote. Now, what about, I mean, we have the right to use the facilities. Can we afford to buy the meal? We have the right to use the facility, but we don't have the right to vote. So that was the next step. So in some sense, you don't sit around the curve till you get to the corner. And we've not stopped. And today, some of the stuff is full circle. Now we have this high moment of having an African-American president. That's a big deal, given the fact that the day that we marched in 1963 at this place, for the most part, we could not vote. That's a big deal. But he is captain of the ship of state. But there's mutiny on that ship. There are those who are trying to undercut, willing to sink the whole ship just to destroy the captain. There are those who want to fight to preserve those on the deck of the richest Americans. But water's coming in from the bottom. And so the ship of state is in very turbulent waters. And President Barack Obama has a high moral compass to where we ought to go. But the forces attacking him must be fought back and defeated for us to achieve our purpose.
If you could turn to this crowd here, and you probably will, and say something to them, like this kid right here. Come down a little bit. This is what happens when you show up. This is what happens when you showed up in '63. It shows when you show up now. What does it feel like to have that guy right there standing next to you and have hopes for his future?
This is a flower waiting to blossom. The good news, his parents are here. So he is being cultivated. So you don't have the weeds that grow up around them. You don't have the bugs to bite them. You have parents who care. And against the most difficult of situations, children who have that loving parent nest can make it. And I suppose that's what we're trying to say to people against odds, and odds keep varying. Don't surrender. You can make it. And we say over and over again, in the face of these odds, and the odds are great, keep hope alive.
And where are we now? Where are we now? What's the state of racial equality in this country?
Racial inequality is increasing. Blacks are number one in infant mortality, number one in short life expectancy. 2.5 million Americans in prison, over 1 million are African American. You have the increased prison workforce population. We are number one in home foreclosures because banks targeted our communities and it took away our wealth. So we are in a state of emergency. We need help. So we cry out for equal protection under the law. We cry out to restore our homes. We cry out for justice. We cry out for access to education. Student loan debt is not greater than credit card debt. So today we're at a higher plane, and yet we face tremendous pain.
And the symbolism aside, what does this mean to Jesse Jackson?
Well, to have walked with Dr. King is such a huge force in my soul and in my family's experience, because they knew him and we all walked with him. And now he belongs to America and the world and to the ages. And people will be arguing about how the statue looks and what their view of it is. As long as there is in America, there'll be a Martin Luther King in our consciousness, and that's a real victory. He is an authentic, eternal freedom fighter.
And if I can briefly just take you back, since you just mentioned walking with Dr. King, what was it like when there's a 250,000 people out here on the mall marching together and with a mixed crowd marching together for this spirit?
Well, it was great anticipation, you know. We knew he had that capacity to speak and take it to the next level. And I remember that day, Walter Reuther spoke, and Roy Wilkins spoke, and John Lewis spoke, and Whitney Young spoke. But then there was the anticipation of Dr. King, and then Mahalia Jackson sang. And then we heard A. Philip Randolph, another moral voice of our time, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. People came out of these trees, running toward the wading pool to hear him. And of course, he did not disappoint. And he took us to another level of historical interpretation. But the tragic fact is, we left here with that high hope. The church was bombed in Birmingham just a few days later. We left here, and the bombings continued, the killings continued. We left here still needing congressional legislation for a public accommodation bill. We left here still without the right to vote. So we left here fighting. So we said, we go back south now. We go back to fill up jails. We go back to march. We go back to keep fighting because we have unfinished business. Well, that's where I feel now. We go back, we are fighting for jobs and justice and reinvestment in these unnecessary wars and put people back to work. I'm convinced in this global economy that there's enough food to feed everyone. We can wipe out malnutrition in the world. We can fight for drinkable water for the whole world. We can wipe out diseases for the whole world. We have the technological capacity to make it happen. We need the will and the character to do that.
Did a lot change in you and a lot change in the movement after April of '68?
My resolve to keep fighting with no plan for retirement came out of that. We were determined, number one, we would not let one bullet kill the whole movement. And two, most of us around him were ministers, so this is our calling, whether it's Reverend Walter Fontroy, Reverend Andy Young, Reverend Joseph Lyra, Reverend Bernard Lafayette, we basically were ministers, so it's our life's work. We know that to get the resurrection, we must go through the crucifixion. We're ready to take on our Friday to get to our Sunday. We're willing to suffer to get the redemption that we seek. So we were not temporary workers. We were freedom fighters, and it is that definition of ministry, in some sense, distinguishes our work, because we chose not to do pastoral ministry, which has its place. We chose to work full-time forever on being change agents, and we've seen evidence in our lifetime of the fruits of our labors.
Sure. Yeah, just what are you working on right now, Rainbow Coalition?
We're doing, around the country, we're doing hearings with the Congressional Black Caucus on putting a focus on the need for jobs. We bailed out the insurance companies. Without the public option, they still have monopolies, and you have more wealth in the insurance companies and more uninsured people. There are 59 million Americans today who are in poverty, 44 million who are on food stamps. You see in our cities resegregation, people don't have access to transportation. So we have our hands full, fighting to even the playing field. You know, we've done so well athletic, all these athletic heroes, football, basketball, baseball, golf, tennis, track. Why do we do so well in the athletic field? Because it's difficult to be a first-class football player, baseball, basketball. Why are we the best at what's so difficult to do? Whenever the playing field is even, and the rules are public, and the goals are clear, the referee is fair and it's transparent, we can win. We want that same sense of inherent justice beyond the playing field, the access to med school, law school, teaching, music, art, and science. So that is our eternal quest, a quest for equality, a quest for justice, and to be measured by how we treat the least of these. We seem today to be more embracing of the rich young ruler in the mansion than Jesus in the manger. The rich young ruler gives fundraisers. The rich young ruler gives big parties. The rich young ruler has yachts. But the poor among us are growing in number. And most poor people work every day and cannot make ends meet. And somehow we cannot be in the land of such lush plenty, allow people to languish in poverty. That becomes a measure of our character.
We are broadcasting this to Iran and other countries around the world. It's a whole country oppressed that could learn from and will learn from the story that we're doing. What do you say to them and others around the world who have experienced an oppression that is equally as great as what you fought to overcome?
Open up. Don't be insecure about your possibilities. For example, there are 2 Americans now in a jail in Iran. I'm trying to go to Iran. I've reached out to their embassy. I want to go to Iran to meet with those persons who are in jail and seek their freedom. We've been blessed to bring Americans home from prison in Iraq and Cuba and Yugoslavia. And we know that whenever prison doors open, it always opens up dialogue as a basis for change. So I hope that people who are in those countries know that if they keep struggling, if they keep their hopes high, they will prevail in time. And I hope that if there's any government official in Iran who hears my voice, that I'm trying to get to Iran, to meet with leadership. I'm trying to get there, to meet with those who are in prison. I'm trying to seek their freedom because their freedom is the key to the freedom of the country.
That is it.
Thank
All right.
you. Reverend.
I worked with you at NBC for years.
Get your camera that way.
I already got a picture of you.
Oh, there, did you?
Yeah, from over there with the camera crew, him to the side, you to the side.
Okay.
Camera? Anyone?